Conversations with Elders, hosted by yours truly, Louis-Virie Blanche, welcoming you to Glastonbury Radio 432, where we will be TED Talking in tongues with the elders of all ages, all generations, all races, cultures, and creeds. All gender, religious, or political preferences will be honored and encouraged on Glastonbury Radio 432, Conversations with Elders, where it is our treasured pleasure to roll out the red carpet of golden liquid love light to you in honor of the Queendom Come, soul dancing free to life's heartbeat drum, in honor of mother, daughter, sister, lover, priestess, goddess, friend, sharing the blessings of love's perfect stranger, Deja Vu, welcoming you to Glastonbury Radio 432.
It's too cosmic, much too cosmic for me. Much too cosmic.
We're saying aloha, hola, aho, hello, fi.
High five.
Our brother Dr. Mohsen is here with us again.
This is by Aristotle. It says, those who know, do. Those who don't know and don't understand, teach. And those who don't know how to teach our teacher what to teach.
And so George Bernard Shaw.
So this was Aristotle. But Bernard Shaw said it a little differently. He says, those who can do. Those who can't teach. And those who can teach our teachers what to teach. And the Chinese guy by the name of Lao Tzu, it says, those who know do not speak.
Right, that was Lao Tzu.
Yeah, and those who speak do not know. And those who know nothing, they speak all the time. Like politicians.
Very much so. And, we talked about this. Humanity will know more and more about everything until they know nothing about anything at all.
That one is from me, but these are from these three guys that I mentioned here. Yeah.
Well, what did you encounter when you were in studying? Because I've experienced this, and I've heard about other people experiencing it, where you have a professor that no matter what you do, you might invent fire, and they'll say, well, that's really not that special. They don't give you credit because they have some kind of, perhaps it's an envy of your skills and your knowledge. But then it ends up being the reason they're giving you such a hard time is they really see you have promise. So they want to challenge you at every chance they get.
Yeah. You see what happened? I think what you just were saying, it boils down to just this tiny little understanding. Eye of the soul, eye of the heart, that everything science, because they are taught that way and they're supposed to teach that way or they get fired.
Mm-hmm. They have to follow a career.
It's just the issue of duality versus polarity. Now, if our eyes are open, heart eyes and mind eyes and all that, what we see in the nature, which is the main laboratory for us, with empirical data, not experimental. You don't have to experiment anything. You just have to observe it. All of a sudden, there is a conflict in our mind that we see something in the nature which is male and female. There is no positive and negative to cancel each other in the nature. And here, the nature of everything, you look at the tree, you look at the bee, you look at the bugs, you look at the planets. Everything is polarity, male and female. And all of a sudden, there is this convulsion happens in the mind that who is right and who is wrong. And since I'm a scientist, I see the science is right. The nature is wrong. So biology should go under physics, not physics under biology.
Biology should go under physics, not physics under biology.
I mean, physics has to go under biology because biology is polarity nature. And physics is what I created.
So physics likes to dominate the whole playground of
Yeah.
life.
See, the thing is, in biology, we have field and flow. For example, a field of a spring happens, and all of a sudden everything blooms. You don't know where it comes. All of a sudden there's buds, everything opens, the colors of the whole thing. So it's based on field and flow. Because the field has been created, the flow happens and you see flowers. The flowers then turns into fruits and we feed. Now, the other way, when I'm talking about physics, I'm talking about action and reaction. Newtonian paradigm or Vedic paradigm, the same thing is the ancient version of Newton. It's all governed by that equal sign. Action and reaction, not field and flow. But when you have a field, even if you look at that action and reaction, the reaction is far more than the action. Because all of a sudden, one grain of wheat becomes 70. All of a sudden, this tiny little bud becomes a nice fruit, or a whole great bunch of it, you know? And that doesn't happen in action and reaction.
So the process of a plant blossoming fruit, have we spoken about the negative ions are so potent in the ripe fruit, the ripeness of the vegetable that the plant offers us.
Yes.
And it gets there by field and flow, not by action and reaction.
Exactly. The field and flow, there is something in creation, it's synergy. Everything we do in physics, it's energy. Energy is the enemy of synergy. Because synergy brings life, like the flowers, the fruits, me and you know, and we get life. And energy, it depletes us. Energy is the enemy of synergy. That's why energy is governed by entropy, ever increasing disorder, the law of science, not mine and yours. And by efficiency, which is always less than one.
Efficiency, but we
know we have centropy.
We would prefer to be sufficient, not efficient.
Sufficiency.
Sufficient.
It's based on synergy. And it's based on centropy. That means ever increasing order. In your garden, you put a few flowers and trees. You notice constantly they create more order.
So that ever increasing of synergy, is that the fractal flow?
Fractalation. That's why.
Fractalation.
Yeah, with energy, I cause what? Duality. I cause entropy, and I cause fragmentation. Now, an example of fragmentation. Let's say you have the most sufficient car that today they have, Porsche, whatever.
Tesla.
Even if you, because that's supposed to be the most efficient. The paint job on that car is $25,000.
How about, remember the DeLorean? The DeLorean had a reputation of being the car of all cars, right?
Yeah. So you put 100 units of gas and energy, right? 100 units of gas, because energy is matter. Synergy is a flow. It's ever existing flow. This is stored matter, the oil. You put 100 units of oil in there, at best, in a Porsche, you get 15% efficiency. That means 15% of that becomes motion, movement, and the other 85% is pollution. Because now, why do we call entropy? Because byproduct of energetic process is not acceptable by nature. Otherwise, it absorbs it. Carbon dioxide from me and you is a biological carbon dioxide, they can absorb it. But carbon dioxide from the car is entropical. It's accumulative. Otherwise, it would assimilate, and then we wouldn't have any pollution. But it's ever increasing pollution every city, every centralized urban area we have.
So the recycling fractalation becomes self-sufficient.
Yes.
Just by maintaining harmony with nature.
But that's not the process you or I created. It's the process of what's up there. It's a
Right.
process of our own body. It's the function of our all creation is that, you know, that synergy, syntropy. Let's say, if you're synergetic, just as we get older, we become more centropical. What does that mean? That means we get rid of our faults. We become a little bit maybe more wiser.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, hopefully
What
somebody's energetic.
if we trace how this got so out of sync, out of harmony with nature? Did mankind start using mind and logic and stop thinking about the heart and love?
Because what happened, it was, you can blame it on religion. And what happened, every religion they had a destroyer and corrupter, which was everything created a religion based on hearsay, not by revelation. Every religion is suffering from that. Muslims, Jews, and Christians. They all have 60, 70 factions. It's all because they are looking at not revelation, but they are doing on hearsay. Now, my hearsay may not be acceptable to you or him or her or whatever. So this became very accumulative during 14th, 15th centuries. When it becomes so accumulative, people had rebelled against it. All of a sudden, Renaissance came around.
Do you think there was an actual calculated obsolescence in the doctrines that religions presented to the masses of people to keep the inner circle of true knowledge away from the masses?
That's why, you go back to Council of Nicaea, Athanasius was the chairman of it. But a few years before his death, him, Constantine, and his wife and sister, they all repented because what they had preached was all literalism. It wasn't revelation. But if you go to Revelation, revelations are perfect. Because otherwise God wouldn't be omni-justice. All revelation to Moses, Jesus, Noah, Muhammad, all of that is perfect. But I come and start twitching it to fit my purpose, for my political views, for my governing views. All of a sudden, I corrupt.
Well, there was. Did you ever have any contact with David Hawkins, who wrote Power versus Force, and he utilized applied kinesiology, muscle testing, to check?
Oh yeah, testing and all that. Yeah, it just anything can affect. The minute I have it, thoughts of jealousy, whether I know it or not, it affects my function. Because
he had a scale, he had a scale which he called the qualitative scale of consciousness, which started at 0, and the way he added it, it went to 1,000. From 0 to 200 were envy, jealousy, anger. At 200, according to his scale, the heart opened, and you had more compassion. And I think between 300 and 600 were the intellectuals. And from 700, 800, 900, and 1,000 were avatars who didn't really even have to embody physically on earth. That was how his scale worked. But he went through a process of testing scripture from Buddha, Muhammad, Christ, and the real scripture from those beings tested higher. And one of the things that was interesting about his studies was that the tester and the testee did not know. He would put these passages in a manila envelope. And the way that it was described is there was an emanation from inside the envelope that affected the person's physical function.
Well, I mean, Masaru Emoto, he showed us, he would write one thing on the water and constantly. Now, if you and I are 75% water here, 85% water here, 94% in our blood, and 98% of autonomic nervous system. Instantly, he was looking at the microscope. I think he was probably one of the greatest scientists of this century.
So would that be considered a synergetic process?
Well, what happened is, it's the dwelling, this inner dwelling between conscious and subconscious. Your conscious, it doesn't have anything time and space with it. It's with soul and the spirit. you can change your conscious unless you put it to sleep. But I can do a lot of subconscious. My subconscious override all my conscious. All of a sudden I become jealous, materialistic. Now, if you look at this, let's say you have a nice pendant and I don't have it and I get jealous. Okay? Now this jealousy is not in you. It's me. I am source of it. And you may get some, fallout from that or not. But it destroys me. So a person who's greedy, who is self-centered, and all that, you don't have to even examine them. They are carrying all that within themselves, right? And exerting it on you. You may not even know that I'm jealous of you.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is, I am being destroyed. That's why they say forgiveness heals the forgiver, not the forgivee.
That's beautiful. I have a song that I'll send to you called To Forgive and Give.
Yeah.
And, forgiveness, in my sacred sound session work I do, and I've done it all over the world, I often talk to people about forgiveness being the most important thing that a person can do. And, the Honopopo, the Honopopo Hawaiian affirmation in forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's,
The cancer patient that I've had, I mean, I have consulted, I can't claim anything, but what happened is, there's two things. Because if I showed you some of the stuff that I had sent you earlier, Konstantin Klatkov showed, let's say, cancer patient, 85, 90%, 90, sometimes 99, 95% of them is emotional.
yes.
My emotional come from negative emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So that shows all of a sudden fragmentation around the field of this finger, which is emotional.
So that's accumulative. They live for many, many years with envy, jealousy, and greed. They are accumulating.
When it becomes accumulative, it becomes chronic. Then it becomes acute. Then I get knocked out. And I mean, that's why, just today, modern life, you can see that, because nobody sees vibration. Everybody sees this and that. It's all subconscious programming, not conscious awakening.
So that the source of revelation, if we're out in the desert and we are fasting and we are perhaps contemplating and pondering and watching nature and the water and the stars, we're watching nature and we find that experience brings us some intuitive revelation.
Wakes us up. Yeah. Yeah, awakening.
In the city, you're distracted by this and that. The horns are honking. People are rushing to and fro. You got to get something to eat and get back to work. You got to save enough money to hopefully be able to retire. But you've done it for 40 years and you're stressed out and you've got a great bank account, but your body is worn out.
See, what happened, negative emotions always starts with fear. Am I going to have more money? Do I have more money than you? Or do you have more money than me? Do you have more things than me? Do I have less things? See, all the negative emotion, jealousy, hatred, and all that stuff, fragmentation, happens with the fear. And that's mostly materialistic fear. Subconscious.
Well, you see this balance of love is not perhaps versus fear, but you have to choose. Do you choose to love or do you choose to be fearful?
And that fear is always associated with doubt.
Yes.
Cause and effect. You see that? I have a doubt that God will provide for me for my next meal.
Right. Well, our friend Buckminster Fuller spoke of Spaceship Earth having such a inherent design to it that we don't have to worry. Our creator would not put us on a spaceship without enough supplies.
There's a saying, you mentioned about Arabic phrases. It says, the one who gives you the teeth will give you the food. Yeah. But the thing is, God guides somebody's step if they're willing to move their feet. If I don't want to move, if I have a subconscious that I don't move my feet, No matter how much he blesses, I'm not going to receive it.
This is true.
I have to be willing to move my feet.
And this
And then,
this willingness from Creator we were given free will, the ability to exercise our choice.
so you build a little confidence for ourselves that I did it, but he blessed me. Yeah.
There you go. So
Yeah.
in the process of human evolution, you were saying something that you wanted to share, things that pertain to this moment now that humanity is going through. What were those points that struck you?
What happens, that's why, there was this religion became so literalistic that all of a sudden it caused uprisings, in Europe, that Renaissance came around.
It was literal.
Yeah, and the Renaissance came around. There were people like Francis Bacon, Rene Descartes. Each one of them, I can tell you which one of them did what. And Isaac Newton, which is the same version of Vedic sciences. And then we have John Locke. And then we have these people who are money people, like, for example, Adam Smith, Marx, Theodore Herzl. All of a sudden, these guys, they postulated economic stuff. How everybody works for me, so I'm going to be centralized of that. I can centralize and control, and I get rich. So people, who had a little advantage of understanding these things, all of a sudden, production by masses become mass production.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, industrial revolution happened. All of a sudden, you all were working for me because you were all factory workers, mass production instead of production by masses. I lost my self-sufficiency, but you became very efficient because you had more money.
Well, the process of mass production chose quantity over quality.
Yeah. Because it's not the issue of mass production by masses. The detail goes out, even in design and everything. So all of a sudden, production by masses and self-sufficiency became efficiency and what? Mass production.
Somewhere along the way, someone said, if I make this hammer so that after 200 times it'll break, I'll be able to sell more hammers.
Yeah. Well, that's why
obsolescence.
It became the trend of things. I've written the whole book about economics. All of a sudden, it became about growth national products.
Yes. And how gross is it?
Yeah. That means it's something supposed to smile and say, oh, wow, it went up. But that means, it's a ratio. That means every year I consumed more, I increased the entropy. GNP is nothing other than rate of entropy going up. If they say 5% went up, that means me and you spent 5% more than last year. We wasted 5% more than last year. And all of a sudden in 10 years, become 50%. And since government cannot keep up with it, it has to print money. It becomes national deficit that the next 2-3 generations have to pay for.
So this process, when you talked about the paradoxiality of polarity, the book you're writing, paradox inherent in the life that we live in this existence?
Yeah, it's just the paradox means the opposition. Like duality is opposite of polarity. Energy is opposite of the synergy. And in your field, oscillation is an enemy of vibration. That's why we have EMF. It's all oscillatory pollution. So all of these, goes hundreds of these things that we can find. We have created a paradox in our sociocultural structure. And on top of it, all of a sudden, the last few decades, we created New Age industry, which is a spiritual industry where nobody can really define a spirit. So if something you cannot define or know the nature of it because it's out of time and space, we only perceive things in time and space. So if this is beyond time and space, I can perceive any imaginal assumption of God in time and space is idolatry. So I created a lot of idols.
That's beautiful. So any concept of God that is imaginary.
Yeah, imaginal assumption.
Imaginal assumption.
Because any assumption I make is in time and space, and God is not time and space. So the spirit, if the spirit cannot be defined, then how can we make a process, procedure, and practice out of it and call it a spirituality? So that's why it's spirit.
If I see the Creator in a beautiful blossoming flower,
Yeah,
or if I see it in the wind and the water,
yeah, that's his will. But we never can explain him because he's out of time and space. Anything out of if flower is in process in time and space, you can see it. You can feel it. You can smell it in your faculty. Some of the stuff you can't see, but let's say faculties of the soul, you can sense it, intuition, the revelation.
the eye of the soul with the eye of the mind and the eye of the heart.
So what happened? All of a sudden they created this, since people were becoming really questionable about all these things. They created New Age industry, because I call New Age industry no different than Industrial Revolution. So
Well, there was a time when people saw the fallacies in religion and they said, well, I'm not going to go to church or do all these practices because it's not really making sense. And they had to substitute something else. I mean, who was it that said religion is the opiate of the masses?
Yeah.
Did people need something to believe in? They needed something. And so
Yeah.
people that saw this need in the human psyche created something for them to believe in that has no substance.
Yeah. So if this is what opiates your mind, I know how to control you. I'll give you more opium. Because that's why, you know, they killed the religion. Now all of a sudden people don't want to have anything to do with religion. Why? This is as the biology, trees, and everything needs drops of rain. We need the drops of revelation, and those drops came through the prophet, from Adam to Muhammad, Jesus, Isa, and Moses, and Noah, and all that. These were all drop of rain that God blessed on us, but we changed it. We put a little more chlorine in it.
It was already fine. It wasn't broken. You don't have to fix it. So I love that raindrops serve as drops of revelation.
Yeah. Oh, that's what. Now that's it. In Revelation is beyond time and space. That's why it reveals through angels to prophets. Now, I can see rain, but that's something I have to see it with the eye of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Rain, I can see it with the eyes, and I can see it drops, and I get wet, cold, or whatever. But that other one, it warms up your heart, warms up your soul. It's irrigating your soul. And if my soul is not irrigated, I'm dead.
Well, you know, I think poetry irrigates our souls in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
You know, the poetry that we love, what it says in the words, the rhythm, the metaphor of it, it's not literal. It's something that speaks to the eye of the mind, the eye of the heart, and the eye of the soul.
Yeah. It just takes us a little bit out of this confinement of inside the box of time and space. And it allows us to get out of the box. But today, if you want to be part of the society, you have to be in the box. You have to get up, go to work like that. You have to do this. I mean, you have to wear this. You have to do that.
So where do you have a chance to have an original critical thought?
Well, you know, what happens, that's one of the paradoxes. Instead of just in the science, they call critical path method. They have created in science, CPM. But I usually advocate something around that. Instead of being critical, because I do analysis and find something wrong with something. If I be creative, then my creative imagination produces things like the nature does. So the nature is creative, it's not critical. It doesn't pick on me and you. It actually becomes creative for you and me.
Well, you know, one of Buckminster Fuller's books, Critical Path, I think he wrote in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it was something I've read a few times. It was very phenomenal, but he chose that title, Critical Path.
Yeah, because it was that science, every field of science, they came with CPM, critical path method. And they taught us at the school, in the school they taught us CPM. And it's still, you know, every company works, they have a CPM. You have seen all this ad, Monday morning management and all that. They draw it on the CPM charts, critical path method. But you have to look at the creative path method, CPM, but instead of critical to become creative, because all of a sudden it brings the best out of you. I mean, there is no rose without thorn. All of a sudden, I can be good as a rose, but I have thorn. You pick up on my thorn. You see that? Because that's a critical way of looking at things. You want to be creative. Creative, you look at how a rose open and gives fragrance. And it doesn't matter if I'm good or bad, it still gives. It always gives that fragrance. It gives that color, whether I'm bad and you're good, both of us equally, it gives to both of us. That's how nature works. Creative path, creative imagination, creative intention.
There's a song called Love is a Rose. Love is a rose, but you better not pick it. It only grows when it's on the vine. Handful of thorns, handful of thorns, and you know you've missed it. You lose the word love when you say the word mine.
Yeah. I said, there is no rose without thorn, and it has the highest vibration of all fragrances, way beyond anything else.
It does. I wanted to ask you about this. What is that scale for oils like frankincense, myrrh, oil? Rose oil has the highest vibration, and there is a system whereby they create that knowing. What is that called?
These are called the vibration of different essential oils. For example, human body vibrates between 58 and 64.
Right.
When you are awake. When you're asleep, there's 10 degrees lower. However, all the fragrance of the essential oil, they go from 56 all the way to 320, which is the rose. And next to rose, next one is frankincense.
And is frankincense 180?
That's why he's 186.
So it's actually about 3 times more vibratory essence than a healthy human body.
Yeah, that's why, if you notice, there's a few in original Ginza or Angel, which is an Aramaic word for Christian, Isa ben Maryam. The Mary Magdalene was anointing him with rose, frankincense, and
spikenard.
Okay. So
rose, frankincense, and what?
And lavender and rose and the frankincense, clove and lavender and rose. Those 4 oils. Okay. Now, because today they have found out his name was what's his name? Bruce Triennial. He passed away, but he tested this in the medical school in Washington. Bruce Triennial. I have all his equipments here to test the vibration of human or whatever. Now, what happens, these 3 oils, when you get it to near the patients, their vibration comes and they get healed. Because when my vibration is between 42 to 58, 58 to 64 is the health, right? Now, when it comes to 58 to 42, I have become what? Chronic fatigue, chronic illness.
Disease.
But when it goes between 42 to 25, it's a very acute. And below that, all of a sudden, the person is dead. He figured it out in University of Washington. He's made a device, which I have, which you can measure the vibration of a person, vibration of a plant.
What is that called? What is that device called?
It's a vibrational readers, that's what it's called.
And that gentleman's name was what? Bruce?
Bruce Tainio. Tainio.
Tainio. Bruce Tainio.
Tainio. Tainio. I've been to his house. Yeah.
Tiaino?
Yeah, Tainio.
Bruce.
Tainio. He passed away, but he did amazing things with the plants. When the vibration of the plants comes up, it can absorb more carbon from the air, biological carbon, and it becomes sweeter. all of a sudden all his fruits and everything he did with this process, it was much sweeter. And something like in Cheney, Washington, and also, Cheney, Washington, when some of these things were sour, like the cherry and all that, they sell it for $1 or $2 a pound. His was so sweet. Japanese used to come and buy it directly at $7, $8 a pound for him. Because he knew how to bring the vibration of the things up. When the vibration up, when our vibration is up, we have more magnetism. The plant has more magnetism, absorbs more carbon. The more carbon, notice the cherry becomes sweeter. The sweetness of a fruit is how much carbon it has in it.
So that's the carbon that's in the biochars of the soil.
Yes. That's why we are just like, past a few days, I've been making biochars. So we put it around the pomegranates, cherries, everything, So
will that be one of the side benefits of the fires taking place?
well, the biochar, it has a different grade. If it's exposed to oxygen, then its grade is the lowest, like the open air fire. But if we use it's based on the starved oxygen, that means it's struggling for oxygen. Under your hibachi is full of smoke. Then it burns it very slowly and with a little oxygen, and that's the highest grade.
So a person could produce this on their own.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I have it. There is a device that Australian guy sells. If you want, I can give you the name. It's about $200, and you can do 1 pound at a time. So it's very.
What is the name of it?
I have to go get his name. Actually, I have it on my Skype. Let me see if I can find his name. Just 1 second.
Because this is very interesting, the relationship of a healthy human body, the vibration and the vibration of oils. I found that to be really important. And I wanted to ask you, the olfactory, is it the smelling of oils or the actual tactile use of the oil that's more effective?
Now, the person who actually discovered how to produce, and still they use the same procedure to produce essential oils, was Avicenna 1,000 years ago, and that they still using the same process as he did back then to produce it, a real good oil. And he had about 912 different oils for different diseases, because each one of those, each disease has a deficiency in certain vibration, and once you provide that by essential oil, it induces healing. And I know this guy, is on my list here. I'm looking for it.
Avicenna.
Avicenna is with essential oil, but biochar, there is a guy by name of, let me see what his name comes up here. Pat Taylor, something like that. But I have his address and everything in the back where I have next to with his equipment, so I can maybe, if you want to follow up, I can get that later.
Send it to me.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting for our listening audience to have sources for expanding their understanding of these. Are very, very potent inspiration.
Well, I mean, biochar is nothing new. Even, when they were coming, the Spaniards, when they were coming toward America, they had this word called El Dorado or Terra Preta. Terra Preta or El Dorado. Common knowledge is that if they were looking for gold, but El Dorado and Terra Preta, there's a lot of documentary, I can send you that. Terra Preta or El Dorado was that high biochar content soil. It was a soil which was full of biochar. And if it was layered, then everything was growing real good. And that's what they came, El Dorado was reference to that biochar soil.
Because with that soil, they could be self-sufficient and sustainable.
Well, I send you one of these things back in when my kids were 30-some years ago, when we did that, mix that with the lime rock.
Right.
All of a sudden, instead of 7 pounds, I could produce 80 pounds, 70, 80 pounds of the same bushel.
Do you see that in the near future, more people will be able to understand and apply these techniques?
Well, I mean, hopefully, if they give up the Industrial Revolution,
Beautiful. So can
I
we
have a lot of pictures of this with carrots, with plants.
can we inspire and teach people to do community gardens using these techniques to really reach sustainability and self-sufficiency?
Yeah.
I mean, that would
We
seem
need
to me,
self-sufficiency, not efficiency.
has ended here. Let me see. Is it coming back? Well, okay, you got it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. We need sufficiency, not efficiency. We need uh, decentralization, not centralization.
Right.
We need centropy, not entropy. So the polarity, not dualities. Otherwise, we're just going down the hill.
Now, on your chart where you had sustainability at the top, food, agriculture, architecture, shelter, solar leading to agriculture and solar. How do you pronounce it? Soul agriculture?
No, what happened? There was one chart. You may have it. You want to bring it? There was 5 elements that's a very basic to life. It's called basic necessity for life. And those 5, they break into 37 different fields. And so it becomes 37 different fields, goes under those 5, but it's under those 5 categories. But if you really want to get into detail, we can maybe outline about 37 fields that I have written about.
And what are those 5? Remind our listening audience of those 5.
Okay, the 5, is shelter. We need food and shelter, and we need energy. Then we need health. We need to be healthy. So that's a very good component of life. And then education, because education is very objective. Education is very subjective. I learn from the nature subjectively. But if it's my science, I teach it to people objectively. So that's why the whole thing becomes to be objective, specialized, and focused, not peripheral vision.
Your objective is to get a degree and to get a nice big car and a nice house. Your objective has been brainwashed to have all the wrong objectives in life.
All of our subconscious is objective. All our conscious is subjective.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am, again, very thankful. We're getting close to the time where we have to say fi-fi.
What happened, is everything, it's not from you or me. It's subjective. The minute it becomes from me and you, it becomes objective.
Okay.
Now, subjectivity is available to all people equally. I mean, like, it's not such and such has more and me and you less. It's equally available to all people. They just have to open up that eyes.
Eye of the mind, eye of the soul, eye of the heart.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I want to go back quickly, if we can. When you mentioned the box a while ago, I told you about the box in my beloved's book, Garden of a Desert Rose. She was told by a gentleman that the box had one side that was society, another side that was our parents, one side was the media, and the other was religion.
Yeah, because all those, they have subconscious effects on us.
They have subconscious effects on us.
Subconscious. Because those are our subconscious. Yeah. And that's what it puts us in a box.
They take us away from nature.
Yeah, because with nature, when you're subjective, you become exoteric. All your thoughts are out of your head. Because subconscious is my brain. It's stored like a hard disk. But my thinking is outside. So if everything happens by subconscious in my brain, I never think. Everything is, I can do it automatically.
You're doing
Because
it
everything
automatically,
happens in the
driven by a
brain.
subconscious drive that was implanted in your psyche. With
But they can't program your mind or your.
determined to have you loving entropy, not knowing any better.
Yeah.
Defining your existence with calculated obsolescence. And you can't figure out why am I not happy? I've got this
Yeah.
bank account, I have this house, this car, this life, and it's not feeding my soul or my heart.
I wrote sometimes, in a little paper, I said, I know people so poor that all they have is money. They have nothing else.
I love that. Well, please let's leave our audience on that note, okay?
Okay.
Bye.
5 words. Yeah.
My brother, I really love these conversations. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We really
Okay.
appreciate your taking the time.
Well, that's it for here and now. But until we meet again, this has been Louis-Virie Blanche thanking you for listening to Conversations with Elders on Glastonbury Radio 432. Bless you.
Quantum physics and the kitchen sink, the energy that follows the thoughts you think. Quantum physics and the cosmic sea, laws of nature too heavy for me. It's too cosmic, much too cosmic for me.